Hello, friends. I'm Siobhan McDonald from Granger Street Studios. I'm so glad we can be together today. Today's program is all about housework. Let's get started. There are a lot of different chores that make up household work, and we're going to talk about a few of them today. It might not seem like the most exciting theme, but I thought to myself, wow, this is something we've all experienced, whether man or woman, young or old. So what a fun way to get to connect. I do want to thank the folks from AgeSpan for hosting this program and sending it to all of you at home. It's a nice way for us to stay in touch with each other. I'd also like to thank Right at Home Boston and North, the award-winning home health agency, for sponsoring this program and helping us all to stay safe, healthy, and connected. Well, here's the definition of housework that I found was best. Housework is work such as cleaning, cooking, or laundry that is done to keep a house clean and running properly. What happened as I started to think about it, though, was I realized just how many different chores and bits of housework we do to keep a house running. And I love this cartoon on the right. It reminded me of my dad. The man is saying, "You're not washing those dishes. Today's your birthday. You can wash them tomorrow." Thanks, Dad. So let's start with one of the heaviest household chores, the laundry. Although from the looks of these ladies, the introduction of automatic washing machines made everyone's life instantly glamorous. The process of washing clothes and household linen before the invention of washing machines and chemical detergents during the 50s was an extremely labor-intensive and complicated activity, which would take up at least an entire day each week. Essential laundry skills were taught to girls who attended school, and numerous contemporary manuals were produced for instruction and the best methods for successful cleaning, such as The Art and Practice of Laundry Work for Students and Teachers, that was published in 1905. Throughout history, this has primarily been a task for females, the doing of laundry, but there are certainly times and places when men did and still do the laundry. Here's a photo from 2006 from a city on the Ivory Coast in West Africa. I think it is pretty clever how the guys are using old tires to keep the laundry from flowing down the stream. India is another place where laundry is traditionally done by men in certain areas. But we're going to look at some paintings that show women doing laundry. Francisco Lasso was born to an aristocratic colonial family. His father was one of Peru's founding fathers and later a government minister. He chose to portray a laundress through a costumbrista painting. Now, this refers to Latin art that captures a familiar daily scene. We call this genre painting also in different areas, particularly Northern European paintings. When we're looking at scenes of everyday life, we would call that a genre scene. So this piece shows a servant hanging the laundry to dry. In some ways, this painting could be seen as sort of an idealism of the hard task of doing laundry. That's something Degas did also. From the beautiful washing bowl to the bluish sky, doing the laundry seems quite nice right here. It can also be interpreted as sort of a reverent way to look at a servant. Her posture and her overall tidiness gives her respect and poise. I love some of these other paintings of women hanging their laundry out to dry. Don't you love the smell of linens when they dry in the sun? This painting is from 1887 by the famous artist William Merritt Chase. He helped start the Parsons School of Design. It's called Washing Day, a backyard reminiscence of Brooklyn. And this painting by Anna Mary Robertson Moses, better known as Grandma Moses. Many of Moses's earliest paintings had drawn on traditional American themes, such as catching the Thanksgiving turkey or sugaring off about making maple syrup. Moses chose these subjects because they reflected her personal experience. And it was this experience, as well as her keen observation of the surrounding landscape, that gave new life to these relatively dated images. As she grew more artistically confident, however, she began to craft paintings that were based more directly and completely on her own memories. Wash Day is an image like that. This painting from 1906 shows a couple of women marking laundry with thread before it is sent out to be professionally cleaned. During the 19th and early 20th centuries, the laundry of a middle-class household would either have been done at home, usually carried out by domestic servants, or a laundress hired to come in for the day, or it would have been sent out to a commercial laundry or a local washerwoman, usually a working-class woman trying to earn some money from home. Now, here's a bit of a reality check. On the left, Henry Moreland's A Lady's Maid Soaping Linen from 1765. Very much compared to the painting on the right, probably more of what it was really like, but I do admire her beautiful dress. I know when I've done laundry, I never got dressed up like that. And here is a typical 18th century wash day routine. Wow, we will not read through all of this. You can see the screen. But can you imagine going through all of these steps, starting with getting up before dawn to chop the firewood or gather it for the kettle, hauling water from the creek, scrubbing the laundry, transfer into a rinse tub, spreading the garments out to dry on the bushes or hanging them on the line. Oh, and then after all that, there's still the pressing and ironing to get done. Tedious, back-breaking work. Here's a lovely painting by Edward Manet called Laundry, which is now shown at the Barnes Foundation in Philadelphia. Manet is deemed as the father of Impressionism, setting the foundation of a style of art that changed the century. This oil on canvas painting was created in 1875 in Paris, France. Manet was one of the first painters to paint the lifestyle of the 19th century. He had a prominent role in progressing the style of art from realism to impressionism. A woman here washes linen in a flower-filled garden. The child that we see to her left looks eager to help, tugging at the pail of suds. Washerwomen were popular figures in 19th century art and literature. Manet's good friend, the writer Émile Zola, for example, described their tough lives, the tough lives of washerwomen in his novels. But this depiction is idyllic. Flashes of white paint offset by grays and blues become sunlight on the drying fabric. After the jury of the French Salon, the annual state art exhibit, after they rejected this painting, Manet exhibited it independently. Now, if I had to pick one thing I like about laundry, I would say for many years it was ironing. Now, some people might think that's an odd choice, but when my kids were little, I would put them down to a nap, put on a movie, and feel instant gratification getting those shirts so crisp. Here we have two different depictions of ironing. I guess when Siobhan ironed, I was somewhat in between these two. I certainly wasn't as glamorous and dressed up as the woman on the left, but neither did I struggle and suffer like it looks the woman on the right and the Picasso is doing. Oh dear. Housework is such an interesting topic that I have spent all of this time on laundry. I'm going to show you a video now that shows more about some housework, what it looked like in the 50s and 60s. Some of this may feel very familiar. Let's watch it together now.
There were some fascinating things that housewives during the 1950s and 1960s did to fill their day, while the kids were at school and their husband was away at work. These were the days of doing everything yourself, and women were busy making the most of their time. They were the ultimate multitasker, and they managed to do all of this while also raising a family. Keeping up with the societal expectations during the 1950s was a top priority for housewives. This meant spending hours on home decorating and housekeeping to make sure everything was in tip-top shape. From arranging flowers to folding laundry, housewives were masters of multitasking. Cooking was an art form in the 1950s and 1960s, and housewives would spend hours perfecting the recipes. They would create elaborate meals for dinner parties, learn to cook exotic dishes, and try out the latest food trends. Many of these recipes were stored together in a little recipe box that sat on top of the kitchen countertop. That box was treasured, and it may have even been passed down to you. New appliances like washing machines, dishwashers, and vacuum cleaners were revolutionizing household chores during the 1950s and 60s. Housewives were thrilled to have these tools at their disposal and used them to simplify their daily routines. With these time-saving appliances, they had more time for other hobbies and even crafts. When they weren't busy with household chores, housewives would take up hobbies such as knitting, sewing, and gardening. These activities were a great way to stay busy, express their creativity, and make something beautiful that they could then display around their house. Housewives also often participated in planned block parties, which were a great way to get to know your neighbors and build a sense of community. These events were a chance to get out of the house and socialize, play games, and enjoy each other's company. In the days before cable television, women would often listen to radio dramas and soap operas to stay entertained. They might also call in to quiz shows in the hopes of winning prizes. During the 1950s and 1960s, Tupperware was all the rage. Women would gather together at someone's house to see demonstrations of the latest Tupperware containers. These parties were not only a great way to sell products and make some extra money, but also a social event for women to catch up and have a good time. They would also create scrapbooks to preserve memories and document family history. They would use these books to store photos, letters, and other sentimental items that were important to them. These books were fun to flip through, especially when company came over. The 1950s and 1960s saw housewives often participating in women's clubs and neighborhood groups, such as the PTA and garden clubs. These groups were a way to meet new people, share their own ideas, and make a positive impact on their community. Saving money and getting a good deal meant clipping coupons from newspapers and magazines. Some housewives would spend plenty of time organizing these coupons so that they were ready to head to the grocery store with a plan. Housewives had to be creative with their budgets and make the most of every dollar. They would find ways to stretch their budgets, such as buying in bulk and making their own cleaning products. They were also experts at meal planning and finding ways to feed their families nutritious meals on a tight budget. Believe it or not, moms during this time were pretty handy with a hammer and saw too. They would take on DIY projects such as painting furniture or making their own curtains to add personal touches to their homes, while also saving money. Some time may have also been spent canning and preserving food to ensure that their family had a supply of fresh produce and fruits all year round. They would spend hours in the kitchen, peeling, slicing, and pickling to create tasty treats that their families could enjoy. Finally, women would also spend time reading to escape reality and also to keep their minds active. They would read books, magazines, and newspapers and join book clubs to discuss their latest reads. Magazines like Good Housekeeping and Ladies' Home Journal help them to stay informed on the latest fashion, beauty, and household tips. If you enjoyed this video, consider watching this playlist and then visit the channel to search the Recollection Road Library.
Watching that was a lot of fun. Did anyone else help you with the housework? My daughter's husband does his own laundry and also helps clean up after dinner, which is very different from the way I grew up. My dad works very hard, and now at age 91, he does often load the dishwasher or help with the laundry, which always puts a shocked smile on my face. I never saw him doing that when I was a kid. And he's a great guy and loves food, but he never cooks. Speaking of cooking, let's take a couple of minutes to look at some cooking paintings together. Old Woman Frying Eggs was painted by Diego Velázquez around 1618 and is considered to be one of the strongest of his earlier works. There is some dispute about what cooking process is actually depicted, with some suggesting not frying but poaching, leading to an alternative title of this painting, which is An Old Woman Cooking Eggs or An Old Woman Poaching Eggs. It shows the influence of chiaroscuro, a strong light source coming in, illuminating the woman and her utensils, while throwing the background and the boy standing to her right into deep shadow. The realism is nearly photographic. We see everyday plates, cutlery, pans, pestles, jugs, and mortars, with a special shine on the glass surface, and the lights play on the melon carried by the boy. Here we can see that light there. The boiling pan is particularly well captured with its reflections and the whites of the egg. How about if we look together at this painting now? What's going on in this picture? Okay, yeah, you see a woman and she's pouring something. It could be milk. It looks like milk. All right, what more can we find? Okay, she's standing. She's standing near a window. You're seeing the light coming in through the window, and you're noticing other things on the table, There's bread in a basket and some other bits of bread, cut up pieces of bread. Some of you are noticing this other blue jug, which is the same color blue almost that's in her apron and also draped on this table. Lots of blues to carry our eye across this painting. What more can we find? Okay, her arms, she's strong, isn't she? We know this is probably a pretty heavy jug. It looks like it's made out of clay. But she has muscles here in her arms. And she seems to have a strong body. And some of you are noticing the difference here in textures. This basket, this woven basket, compared to the shiny metallic of this container. What more can we find? Okay, down here on the floor, some of you are seeing that all along the base of this room, it looks like a row of tiles with blue. Again, that same blue that we see in her apron. And another object here, and we're not sure. Some people are wondering, what is that? It looks like some kind of a box with a cup or something in it. Okay, and people are wondering, maybe that's something used for cooking. This seems to be a kitchen. Perhaps this is some kind of a burner. That's great. So Johann Vermeer painted this in around 1658 to 59. The title is called The Milkmaid. It's a simple painting. In this painting, there are neither heroes, gods, great military rulers, nor a princess to admire. It's not even really a still life. Vermeer is an artist of ordinary life. He would set his interiors of Dutch houses. His most beautiful paintings are all set in domestic spaces, where it seems that life goes on quietly. As often happens in Vermeer's paintings, light comes in from the window. It's his attention to details that make Vermeer's Milkmaid marvelous, and together with the light, transforms this into a masterpiece. There is not an abundance of objects. The secret of Vermeer's Milkmaid is the light. Let's just admire this light on her cap here. In fact, it is the light that leads the eye, and your glance rests on anywhere, and in particular on the woman's face and on her hand here, on the jug, on the pieces of bread, on the wall of the room, everything else. But by contrast, it's the inside of this jug that catches our attention. Right where the light doesn't enter is what we try to observe. And there we see in this great area of contrast with this darkest dark, this white rivulet of milk while it is poured. In a moment in time, captured as she gazes down too at the same thing. Now we're looking at a painting that was done in 1927. Harold Harvey painted Gertrude in the Kitchen at Mayenne Cottage, Newlyn. In that year, he was born in 1874 in England and eventually married a fellow artist named Gertrude Bodnar. They first met when she posed for Harvey. She discovered that she had artistic talent and became an artist in her own right, making a wide range of visual and textile arts. I like this painting because so many chores are involved with cooking, aren't they? Buying the groceries, setting the table, and clearing and washing dishes. This is not a small task. Did you like cooking? What kinds of things did you like to make? Here on the screen, oh boy, here's a big variety. Certainly doesn't cover all of the bases, but perhaps you were more of a cook who liked to cook meats or stews. Personally, for me, I like to bake and I enjoy the winter foods, the sauces, things like that. I do love cupcakes and baking cookies also. What kinds of things did you like to cook? You may recall your mother helping you to get dressed, cooking your meals, bathing you, and more. The most distinctive feature of this painting is the angle of vision, which creates the sense of hovering above the scene. In the mid-1880s, there were several cholera outbreaks in France, and public health campaigns called on people to bathe regularly. Bathing was coming to be understood as a medical prevention measure against diseases. Mothers were also being encouraged to take care of their own children rather than utilizing caregivers. The mother-child relationship was a common theme among French artists in 1890 and popularized through several influential artists at that time. Mary Stevenson Cassatt, who lived from 1844 to 1926, was an American painter and printmaker. Cassatt often created images of the social and private lives of women, with particular emphasis on the intimate bonds between mother and children. She was born into an upper middle class family in Allegheny, Pennsylvania, which is now part of Pittsburgh's North Side, but lived much of her adult life in France, where she befriended Edgar Degas and exhibited with the Impressionists. Here's a fun fact. Degas often enlisted his friends to model for his paintings, but none more frequently than Cassatt. She is the subject of at least 8 of Degas' works, and scholars believe her likeness appears in many more. Here we are looking at a portrait of Mary Cassatt, Degas' painting from 1884 on the left, and on the right, Mary Cassatt at the Louvre, dated 1880. Although her family objected to her becoming a professional artist, Cassatt began studying painting at the Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts in Philadelphia at the early age of 15. Impatient with the slow pace of instruction and the patronizing attitude of the male students and teachers, she decided to study the old masters on her own. She later said there was no teaching at the academy. Female students could not use live models until somewhat later, and the principal training was primarily drawing from casts. Cassatt decided to end her studies. At that time, no degree was granted. After overcoming her father's objections, she moved to Paris in 1866 with her mother and family friends acting as chaperones. Since women could not yet attend the École des Beaux-Arts, Cassatt applied to study privately with masters from the school. Mary had decided early in life that marriage would be incompatible with her career. Now, Mary Cassatt and Edgar Degas actually collaborated for a long time. Their studios were close to each other, a distance of 5 minutes. Here we're looking at Alice Neal's oil painting titled Nancy and Olivia from 1967. Alice Neal lived from 1900 to 1984. She was an American visual artist known for her portraits depicting friends, family, lovers, poets, artists, and strangers. Her paintings have an expressionistic use of line and color and are emotionally intense. Now, we can't talk about mothers and children without looking at a couple of images of Madonna and Child. Here are 2 of my favorites. Japanese artist Kitagawa Utamaro made this woodblock print around 1796 through 99. It's titled House Cleaning and Preparation for the New Year. This reminds me that wanting a clean house before the holidays or special visitors is something that crosses all cultures. Louisa May Alcott said, "Housekeeping ain't no joke." I completely agree with her. I found lots of images of people cleaning houses, And this will probably not shock you. They're usually women. Growing vegetables successfully requires plenty of hard work. Root crops like potatoes are particularly demanding, and they're a staple in many diets across Northern Europe. Here we see a painting by Jules Bastien Lepage titled The Potato Gatherers from 1878. Although there are still smiles, those potatoes were going to keep the families from starvation through the coming winter. Did you have a vegetable garden? What did you grow? Here's a painting from 1945 by Grandma Moses called Apple Butter Making. We don't have any fruit trees in my yard now, but when I was growing up, we had some pear trees, and my mother would make some beautiful pear desserts from that. Did you have any fruit trees in your yard growing up? Now you can see on the right, this long list. I have not shown you a painting of taking out the trash or raking the leaves or making the beds. Maybe we'll have to do a household chores part 2. This seems like as good a place as any to leave off. Here's one of my mom's favorite quotes. Housework can't kill you, but why take a chance? By the ever colorful Phyllis Diller. I want to say a final thank you to our sponsor, Right at Home Boston North, and our host, AgeSpan. Thank you, everyone. I'm Siobhan McDonald from Granger Street Studios. It's been great fun sharing with you some of my favorite paintings of household chores. I look forward to seeing you again next month. Goodbye, my friends. Goodbye, friends. Goodbye, friends. Goodbye, friends. It's time to say goodbye. I'll see you soon. Take care.